Jako bonus aktuálního vydání Kontextů vám teď přinášíme celý rozhovor s Gary Schildhornem, právníkem z Filadelfie, který se sám stal obětí AI podvodu. Tady je jeho příběh.
I was driving to work in the morning. My cell phone rang. It was an area code from my area. I answered the phone. It was my son's voice, Brett. And he said, "Dad, I need your help. I was in an accident. I hit a car. A pregnant woman was driving the car. They arrested me at the scene. I think I may have broken my nose, but I'm otherwise all right. I'm in jail. Dad, help me." They assigned an attorney. His name is Barry Goldstein. Can you take down his number? I said, "Yeah, Brett, I'll help you, of course." And he gave me the phone number, and I said, "All right, I'll call you right back." "Dad, you can't. They took my phone. Help me. Get me out of here. I gotta go." So I called this number, and the person answered, says, "This is Barry Goldstein." I said, "This is Gary Schildhornem." He said, "Are you calling about your son, Brett?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Yeah, he was arrested this morning. He was in an accident, hit a pregnant woman." I said, and he said, they gave him a breathalyzer test, and he failed the breathalyzer test. I said, "Wait a second. My son would never drink and drive." He said, "Brett told me that, but he had had a energy drink that morning, and that may have caused the failure of the breathalyzer test. Would you like to bail your son out?" I said, "Well, of course." He said, "Well, the judge set a high bail, but I've asked the judge to reduce it. Would you be able to come up with like $12,000? I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Okay, well, I'll give you the phone number of the court. Give them a call and arrange the post bail." So I hang up. I call the next number. They answer courthouse. I told them I'm calling about my son. They asked for the case number. They said, "Yeah, he's here. The bail was $12,000, but it's been reduced to $9,000 cash bond." I said, "Great. Well, I'll post the cash bond." He says, "Well, there's a problem. The bondsman for the county is away on a family emergency, so he's not available to help you post the cash bond." He said, "But there's a solution. Your son's attorney can post the bond." I said, "I'm an attorney." He said, "But you're not the attorney of record for your son, and by the time you got that changed, it would probably be tomorrow. So why don't you call back your son's attorney and see if he'll post the bond for you?" Hang up. Dial back Goldstein. Would you post the bond for my son?" "Yeah, of course I'll help you out. You need to send me $9,000, and my firm's in a credit union, so it has to be through a kiosk." He said, "I'll give you the address of the kiosk." So this whole time, I'm not thinking at all. I'm in action mode. I'm a lawyer. I'm a father. My son's hurt. He hurt a woman. I have to do something. So I'm just making calls and taking instructions at this point. He gives me the address of the kiosk, and I hang up. I start to drive towards my bank. I call my daughter-in-law. "Please call work and tell them that Brett was in an accident and will be late." I also called an attorney I knew from that county to ask him whether this sounded right. By the time I got to the bank, my son called on a video call. "Dad, I'm fine. My nose isn't broken. I'm perfectly okay. You've been scammed." I sat there in my car. I was like frozen. I said, "Brett, it was your voice. There is no question. I will go to my grave swearing it was your voice. And it sounded like you. It was your cadence. It was everything." He says, "Well, it wasn't me." So I then kept Mr. Goldstein involved in the scam while I tried to get law enforcement involved. I called the FBI, and they said they were aware of the scam, but they're using burner phones and cryptocurrency. I learned that the kiosk they were sending me to was one for cryptocurrency, and that there was nothing they could do about it. And I called the Philadelphia police, and they asked me if I lost any money. I said no. Well, they couldn't do anything either. And that sort of pissed me off because I knew if I I almost fell for it, and I'm sophisticated. I've handled fraud cases in my career, so if I almost fell for it, people are losing money. And here was a wrong without a remedy. So the only course of action I took was to publicize it. I went to the Philadelphia newspapers, and they ended up doing a story. That got picked up by a committee for the United States Senate. I testified before the Senate. My testimony went viral. 40 million people allegedly have seen my testimony.